Hey guys, welcome back to Beards of War. My name's Fat Broken Rambo, and this week we're going to dive into the unknown by reviewing a television series that's pretty popular these days. Maybe you've heard of it. Amazon's Fallout. So it's pretty much Mad Max with a sprinkle of LSD and some questionable family relationships. But before we kick into this, let's go ahead and hear a word from our sponsors.
Hey guys, Roan Industry is a veteran owned company that strives to provide better gear for better operators. To do this, they design products with only necessary moving parts, no excess fluff, and simple functionality. When you get to the checkout section, be sure to use BOW in all caps to get a 15% discount from our brothers over at Roan.
Hey guys, we're going to dive into the narrative a little bit more fleshed out than we normally do. Actually, we're going to give you a narrative period. So basically, the story of Fallout takes place across two separate timelines, and I'm doing this for the sake of our audience because it drove me nuts when I was trying to figure this out for the first time, timeline wise. The events kick off in the year 2077. That's the past timeline that looks like it takes place in the 1950s. Then it fast forwards 219 years to the year 2296, and that's where the future timeline kind of picks up. So now that you know, you know. So two timelines across three main characters, and only one of those characters dives back into the past. First, you have Lucy, played by Ella Purnell.
My name is Lucy McLean, and I'm an active contributor to the well-being of my community.
And if you guys haven't checked out Yellow Jackets, do yourself a favor and go check that out. She's in it. It's fantastic. Then you also have Aaron Moten, and he plays Thaddeus. I'm sorry, Maximus. And then you also have my personal favorite, Walton Goggins.
Well, now that is a very small drop in a very, very large bucket of drugs.
Who plays the ghoul, also known as Cooper Howard, in his previous life. He's the only character that fluctuates between both timelines. And basically, it's the adventures of these three characters that basically link up throughout the first season, and they're on their way to they're navigating the Wastelands, and they bumped into a bunch of characters. The main premise of this is that an event occurs, a nuclear event, basically nuclear war, that destroys society, and you have those folks that were lucky enough to basically buy their way into these underground vaults that this company Vault Tech has been selling in the year 2077 to basically similar to the Red Scare back in the 50s and 60s of the Cold War in real history. They plan those events very well. So Vault Tech establishes all these vaults around the country, and those select people that buy their way into it, they go into the vault as the nuclear war is commencing, and that's where we kind of kick off with this modern timeline, 2296, where we meet Lucy for the first time. She is applying for an ability to marry. She's very skilled in jiu-jitsu and shooting, and I believe science is the third one. Her category, as she's interviewing to get permission from the basically the impromptu vault government to marry and therefore procreate. During the wedding ceremony, folks come in. They're invited from Vault 32, a neighboring vault. They are Vault 33, Lucy's vault, and then you have the third of the trifecta is Vault 31. So 32 opens its gates and to 33, and then the wedding procession commences. They're about to have the ceremony. Ceremony happens. Lucy and her new husband go off to do the honeymoon thing, and then all of a sudden a major offensive happens inside the vault, and the Vault 32 folks start going a little nuts, and they start killing everybody. The previous sequence in 2077 commences with this beautiful scene showing Cooper Howard in his original form, and he is at a birthday party, and he's doing the birthday thing. He's the cowboy with the horse. You can definitely tell he's fallen on hard times. Mentions that his wife's getting alimony. There's some back and forth between some of the folks that hired him to basically show up and do this thing, and there's some resentment when he's asked to do the traditional thumbs up from the Pit Boy posters that you see sprinkled throughout the universe. The nuke blast happens, and I tell you what, it's single-handedly one of the best sequences that just displays sheer awe and terror all at the same time. And it ends really quick, and you're just instantaneously devastated, and you're invited to the world of Fallout. And pretty much that's where we kick off. in the birthday party when the 32 guys are attacking, they take Lucy's father, played by Kyle MacLachlan. And for those of you that are probably our age, you remember him from Twin Peaks back on, it was David Lynch that directed that back in the day.
I never heard of it.
Really kind of a crazy show. But so it fits right into the style of him playing this character. So we meet Moldova. Moldaver. How do you pronounce her name?
I think
Moldaver's good enough. I'll say they'll figure it out.
Moldaver.
Yeah.
She's the big bad of the group from 32, and surprise, surprise, she's not from 32. She's actually from the surface.
I think I know who you are.
Everyone knows who I am.
She had made her way into the vault and was basically passing it off to get inside of Vault 33. And she kidnaps Lucy's dad, and that's her whole mission in life now, is to get outside the vault and track him down. The other another character we meet along the way is it Maximus, or is it Titus?
Maximus.
No, Titus is the knight.
Maximus.
Titus is the knight.
Maximus is the character that Aaron Moulton plays. So it's pretty much like not Iron Man. They definitely have this whole knight thing going on. So the guys that are wearing the power armor are the knights, and the squires are these younger guys that are being trained in a very highly brutal, disciplined manner to take care of the knights. And it's all about his storyline, how he's trying to become a squire and to serve a knight as they go out and they collect ancient technology so that they have control over it and not necessarily anybody else. It's not for good reasons. The Brotherhood of Steel is the kind of the clique he belongs to, and they are definitely power players in the Fallout universe. And in full notice to the audience here, none of us have played the games, but it did not stop any one of us from falling in love with this series. So I'm going to kick it off to Eric on the next piece.
Yeah. So this game has a huge following. I remember, when it first came out, I'm like, wow, this looks interesting, but I'd never made the purchase, never played the game. So now watching the show, it's like, I think I might want to, go ahead and get me a little gameplay action going. But it definitely did, like as you said, the nuclear blast kind of showed you how things progressed and why things got bad. And the way he was explaining it to his daughter, like, if you hold up your thumb, if the cloud is smaller than your thumb, you're good. If it's bigger, don't even bother running, and then she's like, how big is it again? And it's like, oh,
my thumb or your thumb?
Right. Right. So it was like, okay, so we're already in trouble. And so now you fast forward, like you said, you have the knights, right? So the knights are like the big badasses. And you got one particular knight who seems to drop the F-bomb profusely. And you almost know who it is before his his helmet's taken off. And he's not as bad as you think he is. He's like running from this like mutant bear. You're like, fuck. Like he's like scared to death. And his squire's like chasing him, trying to help him. And it's Michael Rappaport, right? So if you know Michael Rappaport, I mean, the guy's like all over the place, man. You know him from like the Friday movies, stuff like that. He's done a bunch of stuff. But that was your first cameo with this show. And that scene, Maximus has kind of been, he's the squire at this point. He's kind of been mistreated by this knight. And he has an opportunity to save him or just let him die. Like, he doesn't have to kill him, but he can just not help him. And by not helping him, he's essentially killing him. At which point, then he takes over his armor, takes over his persona. Now he is Knight Titus. He's just no longer Maximus. So he's taken over the suit in this point. And now it's, he's kind of taken on a role of a knight without being, blessed off on, okay, you are a knight. Like, no, I'm just going to do the best thing I can and get this thing rolling. And that's kind of how he sets off in his adventure.
Great lead in for this, guys. The show, I agree, is just phenomenal. You can pick things apart like, well, hey, the nuclear blast, I'm looking at it as close as, well, everybody should have gone blind and fried and all that, but who cares? This is, an extreme version of suspending reality, probably as extreme as you can get it. Love it. I played the game very, very little, like the first one, liked it, but it's very long, but yeah, great game. So, kind of picking up where Eric left off, as you move further into the season and the different episodes, there's a part where, hey, they're finding and kind of releasing the gold. So that's Walton Goggins. I'm saying his name right? Goggins,
Yeah.
Goggins. Yeah, Goggins. I think he's a great actor, but he's the goal, and he's kind of buried in this underground in a coffin, for lack of better terms, and somebody I guess has been torturing him for how nobody knows how long. So this band of like three guys that are essentially going out to get a collect this reward for this one guy that escaped from what's called the Enclave, right? So there's a bunch of different factions, vying for power, from the Vault Tech people to the Enclave to the Brotherhood of Steel. Everybody wants to try and take control of the surface and run things. And the Enclave happened to be like a group of really, really smart, like scientists, doing experiments and stuff on people. So the one guy that escapes has this chip that he kind of lodged into his head. That's essentially what Moldava is after as well. And that chip's like unlimited power or whatever. And her company originally created that technology, and the Vault Tech guys bought up all the companies to include hers and got a hold of it. So he's trying to escape with it. Now he's wanted by everybody. So there's, a high price on his head. These guys go and dig up the gold because he's the known bad guy that's been grabbing people up and basically running down all these wanted people for, a couple hundred years now. So they dig him up in order to break him out and bring him into their band of merry men. But needless to say, he turns the tides on them and ends up throwing, what was that? That was Bubba Gump. Was that Bubba Gump?
Makita Williamson.
Yeah, Bubba Gump. They throw Bubba Gump into the, he throws him into that coffin and kills the other two guys and takes off to go and essentially get this for his own, for himself. But more so, as you'll see throughout the show and the series, and probably throughout multiple episodes or multiple seasons, he seems to be in search of something, one being Moldava, and then probably more than likely trying to figure out where his wife, I mean, I think they even say that as much, his wife and kid, trying to figure out where they're at. So while that was a very short part, it was a good intro into who he is, what he's about, and a little bit of connection to, connecting him to his backstory, because he still has some of the same phrases. And then, they just roll right into the rest of this. It starts to become, the pace starts to pick up, but again, really, really good. And then it gets, like I said, a lot more busy, or a lot busier, however you want to say it, when they get into town and start having a lot of gunplay.
Yeah, it's great too, because I felt like the scene that they're going into when I think it's the town's called Philly, right? So
yep.
Of course, I think of Philadelphia.
West Philadelphia, born and raised.
They are pretty similar.
Where was Will Smith?
I mean, you could have argued that was Philadelphia for real, and I would have believed you.
Right.
But anyways, so all three characters kind of like all funnel into to Philly, and that's where like Lucy meets up, and she starts asking questions, like, "I'm looking for my dad," and everyone's like, "Get out of here, Vault people! Like, you're obviously about to get massacred up here on the surface, you idiots. Go back down your hidey hole." So they're very welcoming. So that's when she has a brief encounter with our scientist. I think his name is Ziggy, the guy who injected himself with a cold fusion pill, and he's got Dog Meat the dog with him. So I know a little bit about the games now because I've been doing some research. But then the ghoul is there, and everyone is converging to try to get Ziggy, right? So the bounty's out on him, and long story short, Ziggy gets a chance encounter with the ghoul, and it doesn't go well. He loses a foot in the fight as it progresses, and it's brutal, man. The ghoul unleashes on like everyone that's got a gun, pretty much dies by the hands of this dude. And Walton Goggins is just chewing the scenery up as the ghoul, man. He is just absolutely, like, the whole show, he is a phenomenal
Definitely
presence.
fun to watch, yeah.
Yeah, man. He's got some of the best lines in the show, too. Lucy shoots him with, I believe it's like a trank gun. And he's got that great line you see in that trailers. He's like, "That's a very small drop in a very large bucket of drugs." And I was just dying laughing, dude. That shit was hilarious.
I think every veteran can say that at this
right? You're not kidding. So the gunfight ensues. Maximus shows up with his new power armor. Definitely not a master status behind that thing either, because he's all over the map. He's doing, God, gee golly, he is doing his best that he can do today, and it's just not very good. But it buys them enough time for Moldova. I'm gonna butcher that name this whole video. Her forces that are tasked with slipping Ziggy out, right? So they get depleted, and then Lucy, unbeknownst to pretty much everybody else, to include herself, gets tasked with like, hey, that guy can help you get to your dad, pretty much. So she chases after now robotic foot Ziggy, because that looked all kinds of brutal. Dude, you see that it was for veterans too? Like, God, man.
Yeah, the prosthetic process is outstanding. Like, you just get a decayed foot and then
That's
just put it on.
But it's an accurate depiction of the VA.
Yeah, I was going to say it's. I think they're issuing those out still.
Right.
I mean, I like how they tied the kind of a future, post-apocalyptic future with really old, years in like the 50s, 60s type era and the musical score. But yeah,
it was fantastic. The scene's great. I'd say it's probably one of the key scenes that you're gonna think back to when you watch the show a second time or when you think about it. It's a fantastic sequence. And that basically leads. So the Ghoul and Maximus fight it out while Lucy and Ziggy kind of make a run for it, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and pass the rest off to Eric.
Yeah, so Maximus is basically like a cross between the Greatest American Hero and Iron Man. He has his suit.
Yes.
He does not really know how to operate it, right? The directions were not included, right? So you kind of get it. Like, okay, you're still operating this suit. You're doing a great job, man. But, there's certain things like locking it when you leave it, right? So he comes back to the suit. Now they're bandits trying to, I don't know what they intended to do, steal the suit, take it, strip it for parts. I don't know what you do in the future with a suit of armor. But anyway, they're all over this thing. And, Maximus is he's not the strongest guy. He's not the smartest guy. He's just a guy that has heart. And he's trying to fight these bandits off, man, and they bust him up and they just throw him away. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to come back with a toilet seat and a pole. And he literally just comes back and just fights these guys off, man. I'm like, yes, Maximus, get him. And he still gets beat up. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you can do better than that. But I just like his heart. And then he gets one arm in the suit and just pops the guy's head like a melon. It was like, okay. Yeah, that's his like first real kill, and I'm like, okay, Maximus, you're growing on me. You're growing on me, dude. I love the fact that you have that heart, even though you're going in against unsurmountable odds. Like, he knows probably he's not going to win that fight, but he's going to go into the fight. You know what I mean? He's going to do whatever he can. Okay, if I got to take hits, I'm going to take hits, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to come back, and it's going to be, okay, if I got to get down again, I'm going to come back. So that character is growing on me, and the fact that he's in this suit. He's trying to learn how to work it, and he's making progress. It's not fast, but he's making progress. He's getting actually pretty good with it. He kind of, and I like the way that his personality still comes through the voice of the robot. So it's like, hey, so what's going on? It's like just real matter of fact conversations. It's not robotic at all, but just seeing him in these suits, and these suits are so like gamey and they look so cheesy, but that's part of the fun, right? It's like, okay, it doesn't look like a realistic suit, but it's fun. You still get the idea of it and everything. But Maximus throughout this show, kind of you could just watch his growth, and him getting used to the suit and using it, and it becomes almost reliant on it after a point. So he'll almost do anything to keep it. But him going to fight the Ghoul with that suit and kind of get in there and save Lucy. That was another thing where he wasn't prepared to take on, but he did it. He kind of steps in when he needs to, and he's going to do what he needs to do to make sure that the right thing is being done. So and like after that, you got the whole thing with Lucy shows back up and they have a fight with this what big fish with a bunch of fingers in his mouth. I don't even know what that thing is called, but I think you have more on that one, right, Chris?
Yeah, and a couple things on the suit thing of Maximus. So one, if I remember correctly, a little bit that I did play of the game, that suit looks pretty spot on to the game. I think they did a really good job on the suit, kind of matching it to the game. So kudos to them for that. And then I don't know if you guys caught it. I mean, it was pretty blatant. So way back at the very beginning when he was a squire working for Titus, and then again when he took the suit on, like, so Titus, when he was trying to befriend him and talk to him in the helo, and they're on their way out, and he goes like, yeah, clean this, and takes off the front, essentially like
the crotch part.
Yeah, exactly, like the outer codpiece cup, and throws it to him to clean that. And he does exactly the same thing to his new squire, because he's like, oh crap, he saw that the Squire was actually one of the guys that used to beat him up, and he didn't want to be seen. So after he beat those guys up, those Raiders, and got back into that suit really, really quick after he ripped the mic out, he's like, no, I need another Squire. And they were like, we're sending one anyway. Rips it out, gets back into that thing. And the guy's trying to, kiss up to him. And he's like, oh, what did I do to offend you? Whatever. And he was about to kill him. And he's like, nah. And he takes it off and throws him, clean this. And he's like, oh, yeah, he starts cleaning it.
Yeah,
so I thought that
full
was
circle.
pretty funny. But
I gotta say real quick, when we're talking about Squires, we kind of came back to it. The only thing I never understood is like why the Squire's humping this giant friggin' bag. Like there's no practical use for that. Like he's not maneuvering with that thing. Like the damn bag is bigger than him. I get it, man. You're gonna put the power suit's machine gun in there.
Right.
Dude could carry his own weapon, man. Like
dude, we're vets. How big were those duffel bags they gave us in boot camp?
Oh my-
Like, come on. We understand. I don't think I used 3 things out of that bag, but I had 2 of them for some reason. I'm like, why do I have 2 bags of this stuff? So, I'm sure it's going to come up later. Like, there's going to be something in there like they're going to need. So,
yeah,
bro, that was the biggest kid bag ever.
Right?
You could have
Mop
carried
4.
around
my
another
Mop 4 is
Squire.
in here. I need it. You
Yeah,
never need
bro.
Mop 4, people. For those of you
why
who
did-
don't know, you will never need Mop 4.
Why,
Okay,
why
dude,
would they
it's too
need
late.
why would they need to fly him a new Squire out? They could have put one in his kit bag. He could have put another person and
Right.
just carried around another Squire, a spare Squire.
It's big enough. The bag
It's like,
is big
Squire
enough.
Squire up. Yeah. So the next kind of part that we were going to talk about was the gulpers. Yeah. So yeah, it's like a giant mutant fish, right? You'll kind of see where they came from later on. Really, it's kind of one of the older
Weird.
Vault. Gosh, man,
Designed
very
that.
strange, insane. But yeah, it's like a mix between a giant newt and a tadpole frog bass monster.
All that.
That no teeth. It's all fingers.
That was
So
weird, man.
because it was, I'm guessing, well, not even guessing, it had its origins in humans and whatever, sea life or whatever. What was it? The Enclave guy. The scientist that stole that chip, he kind of put that in the back of his neck, and he was on the run with Lucy with that super awesome foot, and it got to the point where he couldn't go any further. So he was like, "Look, you got to get me there, but you don't have to get me there. You just got to get my head." And she didn't really know why, but that's because that chip was in there. So he's like, "Yeah, you got to cut off." They pull out this sweet little chainsaw thing, so she cuts the head off. She's traveling with that. That comes into play quite a few times, but specifically to this part. She ends up losing it because she's looking, trying to find her way, and she's getting these radiation readings and everything, and all of a sudden one of these things comes up out of the water, and she sees like a baby deer, like Bambi, gets snatched away, and then another one grabs the head with the that's in a bag, but it's got the chip in it. So she's trying to figure out how to get this thing because it's out in this big nuclear radioactive, to some degree, lake. And as she's trying to figure that out, that's when the ghoul comes up, and he decides, all right, he figures out that it was a gulper that got it, and he hooks her up essentially to like a winch and a crane thing and an anchor. And he's like dunking her in the water. She's like, torturing
Why are you
it
doing
never
this?
works, and blah blah blah. And he
Well,
said,
I
"Yeah, I
ain't
read a thing,
torturing you,
years
sweetheart.
ago. There's these studies. It never works,
I'm
but
using you as bait.
I'm not torturing you." And she's like, "Well, what are you doing?" "Yeah, I'm using you for bait to get that thing to come up and bite, so he can get it." Yeah, exactly. So he gets it, brings it ashore, and then it goes wild on them. It's fighting. He's got these drugs that Eric kind of alluded to that kind of keeps him from turning into a feral ghoul, and it's in a bag, and she uses that bag to get to the gulper. Well, lo and behold, those vials break. So he's like, "Man, I gotta get more vials." He starts this coughing thing, and so that's when he takes off with her, and like, "Well, we're gonna have to come back for the head because there's always something that sidetracks you." And then they're on the road for days, essentially en route to this super duper mart, which is essentially like a giant exchange for goods, whether it's like these bottle caps, which is really kind of the going currency, or other things for stuff. In his case, these meds. And so on that road, they kind of get into some minor altercations, and I think that's where Grant's probably going to pick it up.
Yeah, so it picks up with Lucy and the ghoul basically moving. They're going down their journey, right? So the ghoul's going to come back for the gulper and deal with that, and he's going to go ahead and just make an easy payday. So he's taking Lucy to basically drop her off for some not pleasant activities. But along the way, they come across an old connection of sorts of the ghouls. Another ghoul has gone feral. He knows him from I don't know when, but back in the day because they know each other, and he's starting to go feral. Right, he's itching for that fix of piss juice, and doesn't know if he's going to get it or not. But he's turning, and then Walton Goggins knows that it's the time. So he basically shoots him in the side of the head, kills him, and then starts carving him up for ass meat delight.
Yeah, ass jerky.
Ass jerky.
It's not gonna cut itself.
Yeah, it was great.
Not gonna make it so.
So
why am I doing all the work?
At this point, like Lucy is looking at him like he's disgusting, and then scuffle ensues, and she bites his finger off, and then the ghoul man, just an epic character, well written, man. He just looks at her and takes out a knife and just starts hacking her finger off, and he's like, "Oh, you little killer, you." I was like, man, just great little lines like that. So basically, just takes her finger, man, like it's nothing. Wraps it up and just deals with it later.
Yeah, and you tell that the first honest exchange we've had.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It
so
was
good.
just so
Not an eye for an eye, but a finger for a finger.
Right.
In that case.
Right.
So anyways, he basically makes a deal with her and exchanges her for some of his drug that keeps him from going feral. And Lucy is pushed basically into a super duper mart, which is, I guess, the equivalent to a Walmart in the universe. Goes in there, and his nice, helpful robot helps reattach a random finger because that just won't do, according to him.
Yeah,
and
check the toolbox. I think I got an index in here.
And the irony is that robot is voiced by an actor you're going to see later on in a flashback sequence, which I didn't put together until my second viewing. Because I'm old and I forget shit. But it was excellent, right? The robot is its own character. It's awesome to watch their conversation go back and forth. And before you know it, he's about to harvest all of her organs. And thanks to a lot of luck and some quick thinking, she's able to get out of that. And she realizes that these Beavis and Butthead of the Wasteland are basically running a chop shop for human organs. And they've got a bunch of ghouls locked up into refrigerator tanks and stuff like that. And they're I don't know what they're doing with them.
Hey, but to be fair, with Robot Man, he was super nice, right? To the guy that had manners the whole time.
He was
super accommodating.
Yeah, you get more
what
flies
kind of
with
clothes
sugar.
would you like? You like cotton or you like silk or whatever?
Yeah. It's pretty much if like Alexa came at you with a chainsaw, like, oh shit. But so Lucy gets the upper hand, gets the drop on the two Beavis and Butthead, and prompts them to release them because she thinks that they're being held against their will. So she makes,
they refused to release a couple of them, and she's like, no, all of them. They're like, no, well, you don't want, and she doesn't even let them finish, so like, release them, okay. And then those are the ones that you don't want released. Those are the feral ones.
Yeah. And
I don't know if this is going to come into play later, but what you notice is when they're becoming feral, they keep saying their name, like they're trying to remind themselves who they are. Like, I'm Roger, I'm Roger, I'm Roger. He kept saying it, like the guy that Ghoul shot in the head, and then you see the other one says, I'm Maggie or something like that. She kept saying her name, and it's like, okay, she's on her way to turning. So that might be something to keep your eye on later in the show. Like, you see, oh man, the Ghoul said his name a couple of times. Like, is that going to be the indicator that he's getting ready to turn if he doesn't get his meds, if he doesn't get down to the VA and get his stuff? So, like I said, I think that whole scene was kind of showing you how much he relies on the drugs, because when he got there, oh my God, man, the drugs were like all over. He was like, oh man, I hit the jackpot. He's like putting it in his hat. I'm like, dude, just take the box. Like why are you taking it out and put it in your hat?
Right.
Watching TV.
Yeah.
But real quick to finish off that sequence, though, the one thing I liked about it the most was Lucy got a chance to show that she could actually just write off the ghoul and just let him perish and turn feral, but she doesn't. Instead, she opts to like give him a dose of that drug that's going to keep him from turning feral. And she comes out like a new person, right? She's got the armor reinforcement from like the game covers that I saw, looking like a complete badass. And she's like, I think at that moment she realized, she's like, I have to be hard, but I don't have to be inhuman.
There you
And-
go. Yeah.
And I think that taught the ghoul a lesson too. Like, hey, not everyone out here is out to just kill me or get something out of me. Like, humanity is still a thing.
Yep.
Yeah, she actually became, I think, at that moment, one of the characters from the video game, right? Because you're spot on. That was really kind of an Easter egg, to be honest.
I think it was Fallout
That,
4.
Yeah,
That's reminded me of.
that little leather kind of armor strap thing
Yeah.
came across. Was like, nice to see what you guys did there.
Well, hey guys, we're gonna go ahead and take a natural pause in this video, and we're gonna break it into 2 pieces because this show is just too big for us to try to cram into one. So stay tuned for the conclusion of our review for Amazon Co-op.